Christianity, the move of Jesus, right? Just look at it that way.
Yeah.
The movement of Jesus Christ is the most transformative movement in the history of mankind.
Yeah.
This is the greatest example of leadership in the history of the world.
Yeah.
So let's unpack it. Hello and welcome to Wake Up Our Faith. This is the show where passion, purpose, and dreaming big challenge common sense. We like to think of it as a conversation to shed light on the upside of upside down living. Matt Ham, Kevin Adams with you every single Wednesday here in the Standard Class Studios at Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7 FM. This show is live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter streaming. Love for you to jump on. Let us know where you're listening from. Show is rebroadcast every Sunday on Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7 FM from 12 until 2. This topic of leadership is what we're going to really press into today.
We're not against these guys out there who are sort of in the faith camp or in the businessy camp, John Maxwell, Tony Robbins, there's a blend right there. People spend thousands and thousands of dollars, their time, energy on this stuff. And I'm not going to say it doesn't help, but it's just like marriage books and all that stuff you buy on the shelf. Is it really changing things? We're coming at it from a completely different approach. We're not joining that camp. We're not against it, but we're saying this is completely different. It's built exclusively off Scripture, but applied and lived out and experienced. Well, just because someone has some power doesn't mean they have authority. For instance, Hitler had lots of power, and I'm going wild with this, but he didn't truly have any heavenly authority on earth. And leadership starts with authority, and God gives power to that authority to carry it out. So that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
You may be a manager somewhere, a rock star on stage with 10,000 members, and we see those around the country. That doesn't make you a leader.
We confuse the two.
Yeah,
so if someone has
sure.
a bigger house, if they have a recreational vehicle, if they own 4 businesses, we automatically think they have authority, when in reality they might have power. And that's that facade. There are business people today that are completely illegitimate in their practices.
Sure.
We talked about the drug dealer out of Colombia.
Oh yeah, Pablo Escobar.
Escobar.
Yeah.
My man had everything, but there was nothing legitimate about it, And so there was no heavenly authority, like you said, but there was an incredible amount of power.
Right.
And for us in our lives, as we're looking to follow people, because we're always following somebody, learn to follow heavenly authority instead of just someone quote unquote in power.
Authority has eternity in mind, and power has just the immediate. Who you are is where your authority comes from. It's who you are is who God wired, created with time, intention, geography, variable circumstance, and put you here now. That has authority on it. So you have to go back to that place to really, really be an eternal leader, and then all those other things begin to work together.
Would that be something, Kevin, that you would call calling? Your calling? You would define that as like how?
My calling. I've been called. High glory.
I just
bringing
called
in the sheaves
to say I love you. Sorry, my calling. What? How would we refer to this?
I wouldn't really call it a calling, even though I use that terminology sometimes. Try to stay away from it. It's more of a heavenly value on earth in a period of time.
So when you look at somebody like Bono or Oprah or Tony Robbins or these folks, we're not talking about their faith beliefs. But they are people who are living this thing out, that
Absolutely.
thing that's in them.
Yeah,
and so just to be clear is that, Bono from that early age, like this heavenly value was placed in him. So whether or not you honor God with it, we recognize it in people. We see a great athlete or a musician or an artist and go, wow, they're talented.
Right.
What we're really saying is that they are living their U-print. They're living their heavenly value out on earth.
Yeah, you can live that out because God's put it all in place and not believe.
Yeah.
Now, we don't recommend that because that's short term, it's great. Long term, which is a lot longer. It's not very good. The enemy can't unring a bell. He can't uncreate you. You're a new creation according to the Lord. So all he can do is derail you and influence you away from that. That's why that's so important. And what greater form of obedience is there than to be the pot that the potter created in great detail, down to the fine painting on it. Power is easily overcome, but authority isn't.
Yes.
Leadership is understanding who you are and following that. So there's some traits to look for, traits to overlook, or not overlook, but identify what to kind of walk away from.
Yeah, what to avoid. We can always know we're going for power if we're looking to take credit for something. And if we're following authority, we're simply wanting to give God credit for it.
That's right.
That's a good heart check.
The obvious things that we notice immediately about people when we say, oh, they're a leader, one of them is courage. We see courage and we go, ooh. And that does something to us to make us want to follow that. We don't always feel comfortable with it, but there's something that we can't let go of. So courage is an obvious one. And the other one is integrity. So these are things we just know. You see it, you go, ooh, I know it. The older you get, the more life you live, it's so obvious. But these things are not enough.
That's not the full expression.
These things can go south quick if that's all there is. So, but just because, you see a Ferrari, it may have a Volkswagen, a little Beetle engine in it. Courage is doing what you believe in. Integrity is doing what you say. So doing what you believe and doing what you say, that's the facade of leadership. It's the body. It's great. We need that. But those aren't enough. They are important, but they can go either direction if we don't get below the surface when we're trying to identify who leaders are.
So if you call someone a leader and they're not doing what they believe and they're not doing what they say, beware.
Yeah, they're off track. The areas that are not so easy to spot, and this is why discipleship is so important, because you have to walk with people and help them not only learn these things, but overcome or jump into them and grow into them. But those things are empathy, and we've talked about them before, but they're empathy, vulnerability, and humility. Empathy, vulnerability, and humility.
Yeah.
Now, those things are not typically associated with leadership,
right?
But leadership requires it, especially God's leadership. And Jesus had all three of those.
Yeah. But Jesus is the model in this world that we cannot just toss into the river.
Right.
And so we have to have an assessment of our heart to ask ourselves honestly, am I empathetic?
Yeah.
Am I being vulnerable? And am I being humble? Every leader should have the courage, right, to really do that.
And so the point is there are people with courage and integrity, but they have not empathy, vulnerability, and humility. Empathy, vulnerability, and humility are the engine because they allow us to yield. Empathy is sharing in others' pain. Vulnerability, transparency, it dethrones strongholds. Vulnerability looks like weakness, but it's actually clarity, see-through, transparency. People can identify with its powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Jesus had that. And humility, really the best way, and I love some good definitions of it out there, but to me it's just complete focus on others. And it's not woe is me and beating yourself up or thinking you don't have a calling, but it's focusing on others utterly with all your heart to love on them.
Yeah. Are you willing to assess yourself in these 5 areas?
Yes.
Guys, this is incredibly powerful stuff. I truly hope that you will take some time to dive into it. Of course, we're here for that. Connect with us, info@uprint.life, or join the Portable Faith community at wakeupmyfaith.com to get started.